Mali 2020, the coup that changed the Sahel. Mali, 2020. 4 years. The country had been struggling with insecurity, political instability and public frustration. Then, in the summer of 2020, the anger reached the streets. Thousands of Malians protested against President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. They accused his government of corruption, poor governance and failing to solve the country's growing security problems. For weeks, the political crisis intensified. Then, on August 18th, everything changed. Soldiers mutinied at a military base near Bamako. But the mutiny quickly became a coup. Military forces moved toward the capital. Senior government officials were detained. Eventually, President Keïta and Prime Minister Boubou Cisse were arrested. That night, Keïta announced his resignation. The government and parliament were dissolved. Mali was now under military control. The soldiers created the National Committee for the Salvation of the People. Their message was that they would oversee a transition and eventually return the country to civilian rule. But the story was far from over. Regional leaders demanded that Mali return to constitutional government. ECOWAS imposed sanctions and pressured the military to hand power to civilians. A transitional government was eventually established, but less than a year later, another military takeover would occur, and Colonel Assimi Goïta would emerge as Mali's dominant political figure. The events of 2020 had therefore opened a new chapter not only in Mali's history, but in the political transformation of the wider Sahel. The story did not end in 2020. Less than a year later, the fragile transition collapsed. In May 2021, military officers detained President Bongo and Prime Minister Mokta Wayne. Assimi Goïta emerged as the country's dominant political figure. The May 2021 takeover was widely described as a coup within a coup. Goïta was sworn in as transitional president in June 2021. The events of 2020 had therefore created a political chain that continued well beyond the original coup. The 2020 coup was not caused by a single event. It was the result of several crises coming together: political disputes, public anger, economic hardship, security problems, and declining confidence in the government. The coup also demonstrated how fragile Mali's democratic institutions had become, and it changed the country's political trajectory.